microphones off at your end? I'm getting feedback.
Mine is muted.
Your laptop.
I think that has worked. Thank you, colleagues. So the location that scored highest was Kiangwest National Park, which we proposed to combine with some interventions also at Baobulong on the north bank of the river, because they already effectively function together as one wildlife and nature tourism product. But we do think that there's quite a lot of potential for expansion there, some additional tourist accommodation, new infrastructure and activities to improve wildlife viewing. And also what we'd like to do is explore more closely opportunities for working with some of the local communities, so that we can identify new opportunities for them to deliver services, activities on the site or adjacent to the national park and the wetland reserve at Baobulong, so that they too can benefit. Obviously, the variety of wildlife opportunities and habitats and so on provide a great opportunity to target international visitors seeking a nature tourism experience, and not just those with a passing interest in wildlife, but also experienced wildlife and birding tourists who quite often are prepared to spend quite a lot of money on on an appropriate type of accommodation and experience. We'd also like to explore here opportunities for special interest tourism. So it could be photography, perhaps scientific research as well. And this is something we'd like to talk more with the Parks and Wildlife Service about, is what research is currently done there, and trying to make this a focal point for that kind of special interest tourism as well. So that's the first location. The next one is one that, as I said earlier, we added to the list, having reviewed UNESCO's tentative World Heritage List. The original site was just the so-called Slavery House on the corner of the road where you get off the ferry. But we felt that if NCAC progresses with its ideas to inscribe the area on the World Heritage List as part of the Kunta Kinte Island and related sites nomination, that there's quite a lot of potential to increase the profile of this remaining historic core of Janjan. Sorry, I've now lost my screen. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we have.
Okay, can you still see my screen? Or do you see me? So I'm just going to stop and share again. Wrong one.
Um,
Can you hear me again?
yes.
Okay, sorry, I don't know what happened there. I think I was kicked out. So do you have on the screen Historic Georgetown?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So as I was saying, we've done some research. We believe that the process of getting a site inscribed on World Heritage List has what we call an announcement effect, which raises awareness amongst a lot of potential visitors that there is a heritage location, whether it's cultural or natural heritage, worth visiting. And we do believe that if NCAC progresses this, with the support of various other stakeholder organizations, that we can create a bigger critical mass of opportunities within Janjanbureh that will attract visitors for maybe 2 or 3 days. We're aware from our visit that some of the remaining historic structures are very, very fragile. They need some consolidation, some protection. The remaining fortifications along the riverbanks are still there, but not currently easily visited by people, but they could be. We'd like to propose producing some design guidelines for future built developments within and around the proposed World Heritage Site, just so that that sense of place is retained. Obviously, the so-called slave house is currently managed by a private entrepreneur, and we'd want to discuss with them what opportunities exist for interpreting the heritage in a more accurate sense. I think it's been proven beyond reasonable doubt that that so-called slave house was not even built when slavery was still happening in this part of the Gambia. We're aware that there's an opportunity to develop a cluster as well with nearby Kunkilling Forest Park, the King Musa Molla tomb. So we'd like to propose some access and visitor infrastructure investment there as well. Again, to try and build up this profile of Janjanbureh as a place to visit for 2 or 3 days. The Kankarang Museum is interesting, but needs a little bit of refurbishment already. There are some problems with the roof, but we're also conscious of the opportunity to develop the space outside where the annual festival is held. So this potentially could be quite a large project that would really strengthen Janjanbureh's profile as a destination for cultural tourists, for special interest groups, visitors on multi-center tours who could maybe stay in accommodation for 2 or 3 nights and go off and visit different locations in this the more upper reaches of the country. Denton Bridge, as we heard earlier, about the importance of the river. And we believe that there's a lot of potential here to improve access, basic connections to power, to water networks, so that more activity can happen here, so it becomes a real focal point. The layout of the site presents some health and safety issues apart from anything else, as do the current boarding facilities. I spoke with a senior representative of a major UK tour operator more generally about health and safety issues, and they're increasingly concerned about the safety, obviously, of their customers. And Denton Bridge has the potential, I think, to accommodate many more users, but if we're going to do that, it must be done in a safe environment. We're also aware from discussions with the Denton Bridge Association over issues around water quality the risk of rising sea levels, and even the impact that sand mining on the seaward side of the bridge is having on the flow of water through and around the docking facilities. So those are all issues that we'd like to address. And this is somewhere where I know Dada Niang's involvement with the Millennium work will also be important. And so we will need some liaison there, Dada, please. Target markets for this, again, tourists already staying in the TDA, going day trips, water sports enthusiasts, there's quite a lot of potential there. Wildlife tourists looking for cruises down the creek, but also the domestic tourism market and day visitor market, we think there is potential here. So that's Denton Bridge. Wasu Stone Circle is an existing World Heritage Site, but again, as with so-called historic Georgetown, we would argue that it's important for the NCAC to progress with the proposals to inscribe the quarry onto the World Heritage List as well, because it is an integral part of the overall heritage experience. It's only a 5-minute walk or so from the stone circles to get up there, but it would enable you to tell the whole story of where the stone came from and then why they were erected, the stones were erected, where they are. Access from the village could do with upgrading, as could the museum and the associated visitor facilities. Whilst we were visiting, a large school party came in, and it took quite a lot of time for all of them to use the bathrooms, for instance. And so we'd like to see that if this site is going to develop as one of the highest profile cultural heritage properties within the Gambia on everybody's list to see, then we do need to not only upgrade the exhibitions, but also the associated visitor facilities. This is another location like Kiang West, where I think there's potential for more work with conservation, with research, using it as a focal point for academic tourism, for instance. And we held a consultation meeting with representatives of WASU, and they're very keen to see more community-based tourism initiatives at the site, including events. Again, links potentially with the Millennium Challenge project, or perhaps we just treat it as part of this project, would be upgrading mooring facilities in Kunta. So we don't expect everybody coming to Wasu to arrive by road. Some people could arrive by boat, either on the way to or the way back from Baboon Island. The boarding facilities, mooring facilities at Kunta are very, very basic and quite dangerous. And again, I'd propose that to meet the increasing requirements of international tour operators for high standards of health and safety, that improving or enhancing the moorings at Kunta would help develop Wasu and indeed Kunta as part of this cluster of things to do. Target markets, existing educational groups, regional tourists, obviously the links with Senegal are, in terms of the historic links between all the stone circles, are important here. There is a potential for some wildlife tourism on the site as well. So I would see investment at Wasu both consolidating the existing markets, but also helping introduce new audiences as well. I'm going to briefly introduce Kotu, and then I'm going to pass over to my colleague Lucy to provide more details of the ideas. So Kotu scored the most highly out of all of the craft markets, but we're aware that the buildings there are at the end of their lifespan, and that there is a need for some redevelopment there. So Lucy, please can I ask you to take over and describe the ideas for Kotu?
Sure, thanks, Simon. So let me just elaborate on our thinking behind this one. And, to be honest, I think the selection of a site within from the TDA was the one we deliberated on the most. We looked at all the craft markets. We looked at a number of kind of beachside sites. We also looked at Kachikali. And so, trying to narrow it down into which of those particular sites had the most tourism potential was, I think one of the harder kind of decisions that we had to make. In terms of our thinking, after we'd looked at those sites within the TDA, a number of things were very apparent. One is the range of challenges that all the craft markets are facing, and I'm sure everyone around the table is familiar with those. In terms of the shopping experience and environment they offer, in terms of kind of the lack of diversity of product, in terms of the different markets offering the same, in terms of a number of sort of capacity issues and kind of lack of diversification of the craft market. So there's some long-standing challenges with the craft markets that we've been aware of, also through incidentally through other projects that we've been involved with, and also recognizing that the craft markets and those beach sides also represent a lot of opportunities in terms of enterprise and employment and product opportunities for young people, local enterprises, women in particular. They're already employing a lot of people, so there's a potential there to have a good impact. We also sort of recognize, and reading from other policy documents and plans that have been prepared, there's a great opportunity for the creative industries and an improved sort of craft sector product to greatly enhance the value of the tourism offer in the TDA, but across the country more widely. So the sort of thinking of a site that would be able to capitalise on the opportunities that creative industries and craft sector can do in terms of added value. I think we also are thinking that, in comparison to competitor destinations, Gambia has quite a limited evening offer. It doesn't make much use of the beach during the evening, and there aren't many sort of places where tourists and local people can congregate together for kind of evening, particularly outdoor activities. And so thinking of adding value to the TDA's evening offer was something else that we were recognizing as being something that the site that we selected could contribute to. So as background, we looked at Kotu Craft Market site and the idea of having two things there. Firstly, a craft innovation centre to really invest a lot of effort in addressing some of these challenges that the craft sector face, to support them in terms of market access, but also new product development for crafts, and also to support up and coming kind of creatives who are already providing new products. So to provide a site where these entrepreneurs are properly supported to take their craft products to the next level, but also to provide a I would call it a shopping experience, if you like, that would pilot and demonstrate to the sort of more traditional craft markets different ways for selling their product and incorporating it into experience. So as well as having that innovation centre, we also are sort of looking at what other destinations are doing in terms of night markets, day markets, and having markets where people can have cultural activities, demonstrations of products being made. So it's kind of a much broader kind of cultural experience, and having an outdoor kind of bazaar. So the idea was to find a site that was close to the beach, so in the day it could add value to the beach experience, but also a site that was close to existing tourists, so that it would be kind of well located for kind of the night activity, and for it to be a site that would have room for both, a structure to do the capacity building work in the innovation centre, but also to have enough open space that could provide a new type of space for the TDA. So out of the sites that we were asked to look at, we kind of boiled it down to Kotu as kind of meeting most of those criteria. There were other sites that we also thought maybe they would be, larger sites, but we thought we could just, discuss that with other stakeholders, and we would put forward Kotu Craft Market as meeting most of those requirements as a site, and using it as a way that the craft sector generally can pilot a different way of making and selling their products. And the craft markets, the logic being that they could use it on rotation. This would be a venue that all the craft markets could use on rotation. It would also be offering support for all the craft markets and creatives as well. So hopefully something that could benefit a broad amount of people from those two sectors.
Okay, Lucy, do you want to add anything else, or can I conclude?
Yeah, and maybe Adama has got, and I'm not sure if Adama has got anything he wants to add.
No, I think that's well covered. Only that we also said we have to do this in consultation, of course, with the Craft Market Federation and, of course, GTB, so that it's possible they think of another site, which is not this site. But for the time being, this is what we have. Thanks.
Thanks, Adama. So in this instance, I think the concept is as important as the location. This is one of the sites where the interventions are not going to necessarily stimulate an increase in visitor numbers to the Gambia, but will very much support what's happening already and hopefully stimulate higher levels of spending by tourists, and also offer opportunities perhaps for new entrants to come into the sector, thus spreading the benefits of the investment. So moving on, Bintang Bolong tributary, which marks the border between the West and Lower River regions. What's interesting about this from a locational point of view is that it is sufficiently close to the Senegambia area to perhaps attract day trippers from the TDA. And I see this being developed as a slightly softer facility for wildlife and nature tourism. So offering something that's a little bit more packaged, a little bit perhaps safer than Kiang West National Park. And I don't mean to say that what happens there will be unsafe, but for those, it provides an introduction to the different habitats, the bird life, the wildlife of the Gambia. So again, we're looking at improving investment here, improving infrastructure such as hides, boardwalks, interpretation, provision, working with, again, local communities to train up more guides to take people around. I think it's proximity to some of the main population centres, again, provides an opportunity to develop some educational provision for Gambian school kids as well. So although it's another wetland area like Bintang Bolong, like Bao Bolong, I see this being developed slightly differently and being given a different profile, particularly when it comes to marketing and promotion. So it fills another gap in the infrastructure for wildlife and nature tourism in the Gambia. Albreda Jufra, already a World Heritage Site, of course, under the Kunta Kinte Island nomination. I'd last visited, I think 10, 12 years previously, and there'd obviously been quite a lot of investment in new facilities. But I do still think there's an opportunity for more investment in buildings, a new market area closer to the river, closer to where tourists get off their boats. Again, the boarding or mooring facilities for tourist trip boats, I think, need to be reviewed because it isn't easy. Like I said, I was 12 years older than when I was last visiting, and I found it much harder to get out of the boat as a 64-year-old than I did as a 52-year-old. And if that's, the older visitors are still a key market for the Gambia, we need to make sure they can get on and off their boats, their trip boats, safely. During consultations, it became clear that the two village communities do want to take on a bit more responsibility and ownership of planning, developing, managing tourism in the destination. And I know there've been long-standing projects there for more than 20 years through the Travel Foundation and so on. So again, it's building on that potential, providing some new trading facilities, enhancing the range and the quality of overnight accommodation in the village, and then also improving the interpretation of the heritage assets, including those on the island. The original terms of reference asked us not to consider the island itself, but I don't think it's possible to view Albreda and Jufra as a destination without thinking of it. So at some point, assuming that you all agree Albreda and Jufra remain on the list, we will need a discussion with the PIU, with the World Bank, and with other relevant stakeholders about how we treat the island within the context of this study. Obviously, this destination has always been important for diaspora tourists since Alex Haley published Roots back in, I think it was 1976. And it still remains a potentially significant site for that particular market. But what's interesting is looking at visitor statistics over the last 15, 20 years and the massive drop off in visitors from the resorts in the TDA. And I think we really need to look at ways of revitalizing the destination and then communicating that to existing tourists so that we both consolidate the existing tourism market, but also hopefully attract new audiences as well. Fort Bullen and its associated museum, also part of the World Heritage Site, as you can see from the very faded logo there. We think it has a potential to act as a gateway to the whole of the North Bank. You'll notice my final few words on the slide, the Barrow Ferry depending. Access over or across the river mouth for tourists certainly can be a bit of a challenge, and especially when the ferry's not working. But I'm going to assume somebody else is going to take on that problem. We think that there's a great opportunity to enhance the protection, the conservation activities at the fort, to improve and build on the existing facilities within the museum, use some of the open spaces roundabout as a venue for events, not just for tourists, but for local residents as well. And again, it becomes part of a package with Albreda and Jufra, particularly for those traveling by road, that if there is more to see at Fort Bullen, we'll go there, spend an hour or perhaps more, which then increases length of stay, increases the likelihood of people wanting to stay over at least one more night on the North Bank, creating additional economic benefits through purchasing accommodation and so on. Bass Men's Weaving Site and the pottery site, as I said in my previous presentation, the weaving site was one that we added to the list. Lucy and Adama came across it whilst they were upriver. And we think there's a great opportunity here to develop the town as a day trip destination from Janjanbureh, which then links back to my earlier recommendations about significant investment in Janjanbureh itself. It's another opportunity for training, business support for both existing craft workers, but also potential new entrants into that sector, and people who don't necessarily want to travel all the way down to Banjul. So this is an opportunity to develop, again, another innovative support facility for the craft sector that not only provides production facilities, workshops and storage, but display space that then can be promoted to visitors and give them a reason to go upriver beyond Janjanbureh. And the final one of the 10 locations, Kenya Jamengo Holy Site, is it's interesting because it has the potential to appeal to a very different market, the pilgrimage market, religious tourism. We heard earlier about the significance of hosting the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, and the potential for raising the Gambia's profile as a destination for Islamic tourists. You're never going to appeal to the Gulf market who want luxury shopping of I don't know, Louis Vuitton and Prada and so on and so forth. But there is another Islamic market, people who want to visit shrines, holy sites, that we think there is the potential to develop both regionally and further afield. I must admit, we're not. We haven't yet fully formed our thoughts on what interventions might be appropriate here, which is why I'm afraid I've done the typical consultant approach of saying sensitive investment in. I think the report says appropriate additional infrastructure. Obviously, all investment will be sensitive, but we'd like to work up these ideas in more detail with the relevant stakeholders. And I would also argue that assuming the authorities accept it, that this is a location that could also be of interest to cultural tourists who are not Muslims, but still are interested in learning more about this aspect of Gambian heritage. And because of its location, there's a bit of an opportunity to create, in marketing terms, another little cluster with nearby Sanamentering Holy Site, and there's a small community wildlife reserve nearby. So suddenly you have a day trip destination for people staying in the TDA. So those are the 10 locations that we are suggesting. I've stopped sharing my screen. I'm sure there are lots and lots of questions out there. I think from my point of view, Mamadou, I think it would help if you could share this next bit of the discussion to get feedback from colleagues. One of my colleagues, Elisa, has had to leave the meeting, but the rest of us are here and listening. And I think once we hear the feedback, we will be able to make a decision. Do we just progress with these 10 sites, or is there a need for a little bit of moving around? So can I pass this back to you, Mamadou, please?
Yes,
Simon, thank you very much. You see, we are really working together. As you can see, we have positioned ourselves in the room conveniently whilst you are wrapping up so that I could take over the chair. So it's like we read your mind. Okay, so this is the final session of the day. And what I first want to inform you is that we have a lot of comments from the different stakeholders. Some of them are on the methodology, clarifying something or maybe making the report more attractive. So for those ones, we don't want to spend our time and energy on them. We have already compiled that and we will share it with you. Then you will just put it into the report to make your very good report even better. So for this session, what we are going to do is we have all the stakeholders here, and we are going to discuss on the priority 10 sites, whether the stakeholders agree that these are the sites that we should push forward in the final stage of this consultancy in terms of developing proper investment package regarding their potential so that we could realize it. So what we will do is first we will open the floor and start with, if anyone does not agree with the 10 that were proposed by our consultants, then let them raise their hand and also give their reasons, as well as give possible suggested sites from the rest of the sites and why. Because if we proceed that way, then we will really make headway, since we have just about 1 hour, 30 minutes. If that is fine with everyone? Absolutely. Thank you very much. So then we will now open the floor. And I see a hand from Mr. Kurubali. Then we'll come to Mr. Saho and then Mr. Balde. So start, Mr. Kurubali. You need to come to the mic and speak so that the consultants can hear you from wherever they are in the world.
Colleagues, could I also ask, when you start making your comments, you provide us with your name and the organization you're representing, so that my colleagues in Rome who are taking notes of the meeting just know who has said everything. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Abdullah Kurbali, representing the Ground Tour Operators Association in the Gambia here. Actually, out of the 10 sites, number 7, when you say Albreda and Jufure, does that mean, or I assume that includes combined with Kunta Kinte Island or not? Please.
As I said, we were, in the terms of reference, we were advised not to consider Kunta Kinte Island because it's the subject of another study that is looking at particularly coastal protection measures. However, as I think I said in my presentation, from a tourism destination perspective, it's an integral part of the overall experience. So I need, or we, the consultant team, will need guidance from Mamadou Cisse and colleagues at the PIU, and also the World Bank who are funding the study, whether or not we include recommendations specifically for the island. So from the point of TOR, it's excluded, but I understand from the point of a tourism destination and experience, it's an integral part.
Yes, let me just clarify that for Mr. Kurubali and the rest of the participants. As part of our interventions within the project, the Kunta Kinte Island has already been identified as a site where we are going to construct a jetty, as well as do a kind of preservation of the island, protection from further erosion damage. So then it meant that it will be unnecessary to select it, say, as a priority when we have already prioritized the site. However, notwithstanding, if the consultants suggest Albreda and Jufure as a site, and then in the investment evaluation, they come up with putting up certain infrastructure, then it means that the Kunta Kinte Island is going to benefit from that, because you cannot go to the Kunta Kinte Island without, having a stop at Albreda, unless you have a speedboat that you just take from Denton Bridge and come back. So that's why we know that whatever they suggest will kind of include Kunta Kinte Island. So this is why it was left out in the TOR. But we know that the indirect links are already there. Thank you. Yes. So we move to Mr. Saho
Yes.
before we come to Balde.
Thank you very much. My going order. Second. Okay. Yeah, my name is Lamin Saho. I'm the tourism technical advisor for the Gambia Tourism Board. So my perspectives are going to mirror that of the Gambia Tourism Board, because I'm sitting here, as the tourism advisor, and also my Director General is away. He would have loved to be here, but notwithstanding, he's represented by two able senior officers, myself and Mr. Dem. I would have fired a lot of questions to this consultancy if I were not part of the initial workshop that was done at Senegambia. So we were part of that. So we set up the terms of the scope and the TOR and the evaluation criteria for the sites. So that made our job very easy. So it means the consultants are working in line with what we contributed. So on that side, I would want to say that they've done a very wonderful job. And I want to seize this opportunity on behalf of the GT board to thank them for a wonderful job. I know it is not very easy to catalog all the attractions in this country, but they are able to do that. So we should thank them for that, And the sites also, initially it was 51. It was 51, and they ended up cataloging 64. So, they've gone the extra mile to do justice to the assignment. Now, having said that, it is very clear from the findings of this consultancy that Destination Gambia, what we have are catalog of attractions, but we are very deficient in tourism products, and it came out very clearly. They were able to, pinpoint over 61 sites. But reading through the report, we realized those sites are just, attractions scattered throughout the length and breadth of the country. Some are cultural, in nature, some are heritage-oriented, some are, tangible, intangible, some are man-made. But what came out clearly is that, we are very deficient in terms of tourism products. So that makes this consultancy actually very important, because like Mr. Ba alluded to, we've been doing a lot of studies. We've been doing a lot of consultancies, a lot of research. Myself, I've read tons and tons and tons and tons of policy blueprints, strategies, but this is the first time that we are really zeroing it to action, by going around to identify, and then out of the sites, we say the 10 are the ones that have the greatest potential. Now, that is very important. If we are coming from the 1970s, we wouldn't have, Gambia was okay in the 70s when tourism, started, mid-60s, 70s, 80s. The trend then was more of sightseeing, was more of, leisure, let me go to exotic Gambia, enjoy BB Hotel, enjoy Sunwing, have, sunbath and go back to Scandinavia, but tourism it goes far beyond that today. It is very experiential. People want to travel, to study people's way of life, to indulge in, so it's more of a specialized nature. Tourism is very specialized nowadays, and it's very individualistic. People now are becoming very sophisticated. We all know this because trends change. Technology is helping also change. What we are having today, 10 years ago, was not possible. This Zoom call. So that things are moving very fast. So our industry also is moving very fast today. We need to come up with products that appeal to individuals. And I'm very happy that these consultants were able to do that. So I think that makes it even very important, and we should pay a lot of attention to these consultants. If we believe that tourism is more of experience, it's no longer sightseeing, it's more of, it goes far beyond that. We need to follow suit and develop products. And what I see here, I think is very encouraging. On behalf of, I'm speaking for the GT board, I think the 10 sites cataloged or outlined really are in line with what we really want to do in terms of the various segments that we want to attract. From a technical point of view, you have, we all agree that 98% of travelers to the Gambia are on leisure. Other destinations is business, others is shopping, Hong Kong. But for us, it's more of leisure. But within leisure, we have 12 segments. So I was just checking on the 12 segments. I think all the 10 areas conform to those 12 segments. They are either on history buff, culture seekers, nature lovers, special interest tourists. And these are the segments that we want to attract. Because when people come for leisure, they want to relax. So even religious tourism is leisure. So I can see that there, which is a great, innovation. So all the 10 conform to the segments that we are really trying to attract, going forward. And then also looking at the tourism policy, also we're trying to consolidate on our core, that is the beach, package tourism, and also move, so that when visitors come on leisure and they are on special interest, there's something for them. Like somebody once said, the world is a book. Those who have not traveled read only one page. So people want to travel and read a lot of pages. So let's make sure that when they come to the destination Gambia, they're able to read. If you are a bird watcher, Gambia book, your chapter is in the Gambia book. If you are a culture tourist, Gambia, there is a chapter for you. I think that is the bottom line. That I think these consultants, the language, they're technical, but the bottom line is they are trying to help us come up with products that appeal to different market segments. And it would require a lot of sensitive investment. So that sensitive investment is the catchword. And also, climate change issues in tourism is very relevant, community dimension, trying to make tourism more beneficial to the people. There is no point developing tourism when 98% of your people are not benefiting from it. All the profit is leaked, to the source market or to the generative markets. So by developing Georgetown, sensitive investment, you can see that we are consolidating Georgetown. I've been there not long ago. It's a beautiful, hub. But going by what the consultant outlined as sensible investment, we would consolidate on what we have. When you travel to destinations, Israel, Malaysia, I mean, you see that they invest in their products. So that's what the message the consultants are also sending. Gambia, invest in your products. So as a tourism professional, I think Gambia is a very good generic destination. If you want to travel to an exotic African country just for sea, sun, and shine, Gambia is excellent. The problem is tourism is gone far beyond sea, sun, and shine. Tourism is more of an experience-based industry. People travel for a purpose. If I am a historian, I travel because I want to, see things. So the Gambia, we should also do that. And what they have there, I think will help us achieve that. So coming to that, I have something here to share with you. Now, this data is based on the latest study GT board conducted. Now, going to the beach is 86%. Visit craft markets 69, visit to natural sites 44%, visit to cultural sites 37. So you can see, going to the beach, we are still a sea, sun, and sand destination. So with this consultancy, The expectation is we will develop the products that will appeal to our people so that when they come, they can venture out and experience the Gambia. So, and then nearly 50% of new visitors visit these sites. So that is also telling us something that, new visitors, first timers, based on the statistics we generate, 10 years ago, we welcomed a lot of repeaters. They've seen all of, you don't need to introduce Gambia to them. They know Gambia even more than Gambians. But based on the latest trends, we are getting a lot of first timers because millennials are coming. In fact, that's what I want to share with this, working group here. Based on the market intelligence data we gather, Gambia, destination Gambia, unlike before, we're now attracting a lot of millennials, who are in the very young, age category. And the millennials in tourism is synonymous with activity. They want to go on Ninkinanga Trail. They want to go to Tendaba. They want to go to Janjambure. When I was with the Sand Beach as a consultant, I saw a group of students seated down. No, young Europeans. I asked them, I went over to them and tried to engage them. They tell you, we're here to attend the Janjambure Festival, Kamkuram Festival, from a college in the UK. Now, these are millennials, all of them. So we developed the festival, we developed Janjambure, we are appealing to those people. So, and then, more of our repeaters don't go out. More first-timers want to venture out and see what we offer. So that is what this data is telling us. Nearly 60% of new visitors visited cultural and heritage sites and nature sites. But if you come to repeaters, only 20%. So which means, we have to double up our efforts. Data is telling us we are welcoming more first-timers who want to see the country. So let's develop our products, Then and then, yes, I also want to say that I personally, used to, sit at home, review the master plan, and I was serializing it in the newspapers. So some people were reading it. I took it upon myself to review, and I can tell you the 10, TDAs identified also correspond to what has been presented to us. What has been presented to us, conforms to the 10 sites that have earlier been, demarcated, not demarcated per se, but proposed by the Tourism Development Master Plan Consultancy. So the Kiang West National Park and the other adjacent park that they think we should develop as a cluster, that is 7 and 8. So the master plan, the Kiang West National Park is, TDA 7, Baboon Island is, the other island on the other side of the River Gambia is, TDA 8. Now, you also have, the West Coast TDA, that's Banjul and the Abuko. So all what you have here conform to the recommendations of the master plan. That's what I want to buttress. The 10 TDAs are designed to open up our product to appeal to various segments. So this one also is doing the same thing. What I just want to comment or to, I think the Western River TDA, Denton Bridge going right down to, around Makasutu area, Mandinari, Kubune. I didn't see that here. So perhaps you could look into that because that is, according to the master plan, that is also another opening for Gambians to experience tourism and you already know it's happening. Pirogues leave the Denton Bridge right down to Lamin Lodge. So that is the Western River, including Abuko Nature Reserve. So I didn't see that here. So I thought I should, draw your attention to that, the Western River. Then another thing, Mr. Sisi, allow me to talk, is the issue of craft market, go-to craft market. My colleague can attest to the fact that at the level of the GT board, senior management level, we've been talking about this, that the concept of craft market is almost obsolete. It's based on tourism in the 70s, but now tourists want to go to the Albert Market, Setakunda Market, they just don't want to be restricted to visiting a Bendula. So we should develop other products that are more, innovative and I would call it contrasting ambience. That would give tourists contrasting ambience in our main TDA. I hear Lucy talk about that, to animate, so I think it's also in line with our thinking, where we call it craft village. Craft village, they are saying, an innovative hub, so it is the same. We also thinking along those lines that the craft market concept is a bit outdated. We need to come up with something new. I was even challenging them. I said, the people before us, the planners came up with this. Let's also develop something to live as a legacy, and that is the craft village. So the semantics are different, but the concept is the same. To decongest the TDA, to create contrasting ambience at night. You can buy craft, but you can also eat. You can also interact. Perhaps you can do some cultural entertainment, wrestling. So these are some of the things that I think I should say. Western River TDA didn't come out. The other area also is Jinak. I wrote about Jinak. I went to Jinak. I see a lot of tourism potential, but it's unfortunate it didn't make it to the 10. But they are more of experts than us, so they know better. Even though I believe that the Fort Bullen, that West Coast TDA, sorry, not West Coast, the North Coast from Fort Bullen right down to Jinak. I think that is an area undervalued in our tourism planning. Some years ago, I visited the area. I can see a lot of potential. The beach is pristine. There's room for bird watching. It's just near to the to the park, the Nyomi National Park. But it didn't make it to the 10. So I would want to throw it back to the consultant, so to further enlighten us. Why did they drop it? Because for me, I think I see a lot of, and then another thing, you are looking at me, the NCAC, you are promoting Banjul. I was a resource person for a training. You're trying to come up with a core of tourist guides to take tourists around. And you already did an inventory of Banjul. So you know the touristic potential of Banjul from a heritage point of view, because tourists want to see our capital. It was founded in 1816, and it has a lot of historical value. It didn't make it to the 10. What I see in Banjul is just the Denton Bridge area, which is fine, but that is more fishing from a tourism point of view. But, it would defeat your purpose if Banjul is dropped from the mix. So perhaps the consultant can also look into that, because a lot of effort is being put into Banjul by the NCAC. I was a resource person for a training program. You want to have some cohort of tourist guides. So I think that is one area. But other than that, I think you've done a brilliant job. So on behalf of the GT board, I would say thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saho. You are really a professor, and I couldn't agree more with you. Just even maybe this is the right time to say it. For some of our comments, we were also thinking that, a niche market such as bird watching, where the Gambia has a huge advantage over the rest of the world, with like over 300 bird species, unique. So we were also expecting to see it come out as a priority. And I know that the consultants try to link that bird watching with the Kiang West National Park and all that. But for us, we are saying if Kiang West is a jewel of our crown, we can also develop bird watching as a niche, but focus on an area where we know that it will be specifically bird watching, which is a niche. And like what you mentioned, like the Tambi wetlands or the Jinak, this is a possible area. So this will also come to the discussion. But thank you very much for also giving us the views of GT board, because we all know that by an act of parliament, GT board is responsible for promoting Destination Gambia. So when you validate the work of the consultants, it is very heartening for us, to see that at least they did the right job and they consulted you from the beginning. And also the suggestions you made are extremely important. And our guys are taking notes, so we will also add it to the comments that will go, but we will take the decision here, of course, and then send the comments to the consultant. Thank you. We'll still move on based on the line of fingers up. But before that, let me just take this opportunity to welcome the Deputy Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs, who has joined us now in the room, just to show how important that, the government at the highest level, gives to the tourism sector. So he's here with us, Mr. Momodu, Mr. Lamindafa. I'm giving you my name. Sorry. Yeah. So, go on, Mr. Balde, with your comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Sisay. Thank you very much, Simon and Lucy. I'm Dauda Balde from the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute. I've actually listened to all the presentations, and I realize almost every region in this country has been touched on for a potential tourism product for the Gambia. But I have some few observations. One of them is the Central River region. I noticed that most of the sites mentioned to be potential products to be developed are all on the north bank of the Central River region. You need to take notice that the Central River region is divided into two, north and south. So all the potential products mentioned are on the north. If you look at the south, that's where we have the mighty Jakali Pachar, who everybody in this room knows about. And this has been a long-standing site that is also used by bird watchers for some of those water birds. I was surprised that it is not featured in your report. And secondly, there has been a long time site that has not been noticed by many. That is the ancient footprints in Bansang on top of the hill, the highest hill in the middle of the town. And these ancient footprints are visited by tourists. Some of those tourists that read about it in books, and it's not among those sites that could be potential tourist products for the Gambia, which is a very, very, very important site. So the north, to have the north bank or the south bank featured as a tourist destination too, so that it can also link to the economy of that part of the country. We have to think about those potential tourism products that are on the south bank of the Gambia in the Central River region. I'm glad that Mr. Sise did mention about the important link to bird watching. Now, I saw in your presentation you mentioned only one potential product in Basse, which was I think the last presentation, the last slide. Now, there is one that bird watchers, if there is anybody here with me, would say it's already going near its extinction, which is the only place where you can find Egyptian plovers in this country is in Basse. And that site, with the level of development taking place in Basse, there will come a time it will not be there. It will have been covered by buildings and stuff. And this is a very important Egyptian plovers found in Basse. It's just behind the market, the Basse market, along Basse rice fields. It's the only place where you can find Egyptian plovers. So I thought it necessary to mention that so that we can think about that as well, because birdwatchers are already going there. And some tourists leave the UK and other countries purely to come and see those Egyptian plovers in the URR. Okay. And beside that is my last point would be where I am. Where I am right now, I think this should be one of the main points out of the 10 or 12 points you have. That is the Sadauda Kairaba Conference Center. MICE tourism needs to be promoted in this country because there is a big potential for it. Right? I did my thesis on this, and then my recommendations really were very clear on this, that the Gambia, if we definitely push it forward, it could attract a big segment of the MICE market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balde, again for those. So we'll take another round of comments before we get back to the consultants. But we have noted the comments you have made, and it will go into the decision making to the validation. So for the next round, we have Musa Dem from GT Board, and then Hasum Sise from NCAC, and also Brian Mollis from the Tourism TDR project. So gentlemen, I just want to ask you to keep your interventions short and concise so that we will have enough time to go around the room and get everyone's view before the time ends. So we'll start with Musa Adem. Thank you, Musa. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Musa Adem. I'm the Package Development Manager, Gambia Tourism Board. We thank you very much for a job well done. And as my colleague said, the reason why it's a bit easy for us, because it's been a consultative process from the beginning, involving all the stakeholders within the tourism industry. And I think it's fair to say that you've done justice to the task at hand. And my comment here is just to see how we can maximize some of the suggestions that we have already forwarded regarding the 8 sites that are suggested to make sure that it have a greater impact in terms of potential job creation, in terms of a greater experience for the visitors, both regionally and for our international tourists. I think some of the issues highlighted by my colleagues, I think if possible, especially the cluster way that we are trying to put the sites, I think will give us a greater impact. For example, if you look at the Janjambre cluster, the areas that are already included, they're really good. But if it is possible to include Mongo Park within the cluster, because it gives you like you have the Mongo Park there, you have Kunkling Forest, and then you have all the other attractions around there up to the River Gambia, there where we have Kuntaur and Kaur. The other one that I'm trying to suggest is to look at the Kotu one, the Kotu cluster. Even though it's the craft market, and then the concept to turn it into a craft village, I think is very good. And the bazaar also section of it, which is also very good because it's going to solve a lot of problems that we don't have, but not just for the tourists, but domestic as where families can go during the night and during the evening. I think that will also make a greater impact. But not just to look at the bazaar and then the craft village, because it's an area rich for bird watching as well. Because that Kotu Creek is a protected area. We have a cycle track there that we can use into a promenade, for example. And also there is the Fajara Golf Course. The Fajara Golf Course was not part of the list, but as a cluster, I think we can look at it in total. It will add a better value to the whole of that cluster. And then you look at Fort Blen. Fort Blen, that is the North Bank one. Doctor is talking about Jinak. We'll see how we can include Jinak if possible to that within that cluster also. I think that will address most of the issues that are raised here. And then you have Denton Bridge. Denton Bridge up to Kubune, if you look at the attraction right now, is really good for domestic tourism. Even that's something that even the tourism policy is recommended. It is a strategy also and a priority area for Gambia Tourism Board and the Ministry of Tourism and Culture. So if you look at that, I think that is also give us a greater impact. And yes, that's the Western River. That can go up to Kubune. Then you have also Galoya and Makasutu, all these areas up to Ndemban, because these are all areas that you have a deficit and then come back, and then you look at all the possible linkages within these areas. I think it will make the clusters better in parallel. So for me, this is just the comment that I wanted to put on. Thank you very much.
Hassan Sise, Director General, National Center for Arts and Culture. Speaking on behalf of the National Center for Arts and Culture, I want to say that the consultants have done a fantastic job, even doing what we have hitherto been unable to sort of, delineate ourselves. That is, for example, linking, Makati, to Musa Moro. I think that is a big achievement on their side. This, clustering. So well done on that. We believe that the report as it is, really is very good. And I want to add my voice to what my colleague, Mr. Sao, has suggested. The urban heritage, because in 2011. UNESCO issued the declaration or the recommendation on historic urban heritage, which is a very, very important aspect of the UNESCO World Heritage Center activities. Banjul even have a UNESCO World Heritage site there, the 6 gun battery, although they are inaccessible, inside State House. And also, like he said, we have just completed
like an inventory. With the support of UNESCO, we've just completed an inventory of the historic heritage sites, in Banjul. From the old wharfs, to the Clinton homes, to the public buildings, McCarthy Square, the old streets, the religious, places like the churches, which are all close to 200 years old. The three main churches, Wesley, Methodist, the Roman Catholic Cathedral and the Anglican, Cathedral. So I want to support the idea that the urban heritage in Banjul be considered in the report. If not, I will say, well done. Yes.
First off, I want to thank my team at the PIU for over the last week giving me an opportunity to visit 8 of the 10 sites and clusters. So I'm coming kind of from that perspective. I concur with my colleagues. Fantastic job to the consultants and all the stakeholders that help them with the methodology to define this shortlist. It's hard to come up with an objective approach, and I think that's been done, and that's something that I think all of us should keep in mind as we work towards finalizing this shortlist. We do have niche markets well defined here in the Gambia, but not a lot of data on these markets from our traditional and non-traditional markets. In other words, our primary source markets and our investment markets, including we don't have visitor profiles yet. The good news there is that the project is working on hiring consultants to develop a national marketing strategy. And part of that good news is that marketing strategy will include an investment promotion component that ideally is centered on the shortlisted sites that we choose. We also know that we have to take a demand-based approach to product development. It's very common to look at an asset that's undeveloped and call it a product, but we know that investment is required for product development and for experience design. We also know that the products that we have are in demand from the market. More and more travelers who tend to stay longer and spend more want high quality nature experiences, wildlife and birding, cultural experiences, ecotourism, soft adventure, and mice. We also know we need to develop circuits around these thematic areas. And that's really ideally what these shortlisted sites will link to is our existing circuit here along the coast and expand on that circuit and get more people into the interior, which is a primary aim that we have. In terms of the shortlist, some notes for the consultants based on on-site visits. The Keong West National Park, in case there's not an awareness, it is being expanded to 19,000 hectares, which will increase the number of communities involved from 5 to 15. I think this should be considered in shortlisting. In terms of historic Georgetown, we know about the slave quarters, the Freedom Tree, and the museum, but what other historic buildings could be included in a walking tour and a visitation to the consultant's point to get people to stay 2 to 3 days because we don't have enough product right now to warrant that. Looking at the Senegambia stone circles, I think we should definitely include the quarry in the cluster. On the craft market, whether it becomes an innovation center or a craft village, it has to be based on that market demand. It has to be based on the feasibility and the business case. Fortunately, we see in other countries for the innovation center idea and perhaps for craft villages as well, the proof of concept exists. So we can look at other countries. And I think we can take whatever we do for that prioritized craft market and apply it to the other craft markets that exist here because certain things could happen. Because when you visit, you don't know that 90% plus of the product comes from the Gambia. You might think it comes from China. You don't know that each vendor has a specialization of one thing that they sell and their neighboring people are not selling. That doesn't come across, but that's a low-hanging fruit opportunity, as they say. In terms of the Bintan Belong tributary, it would be good to know from the consultants the soft adventures that they envisage for that area based on what the 2 eco lodges there are currently offering and undeveloped opportunities that exist. I concur with my colleagues that in terms of Albreda and Jeffrey, you can't separate Kunta Kinte Island. We know it's at risk, but it's a UNESCO site. People are going to continue to go there as long as they're able. In terms of cultural experiences in Basse, I agree they're of a high quality, but they're undeveloped. For example, one of the main men's weaving areas is under the TV antennas, and there's it looks to be like a waste dump. So they need a dedicated spot base to be able to show off their wares. And that leads me to my last comment. Thanks for your patience. Optimally, we need the consultancy to estimate the level of investment for each of the sites that ultimately end up on our shortlist. Thank you.
May I respond to that final point of Brian's, please? Is that the one team member who hasn't been sitting on the meeting today is a quantity surveyor that is based in the Gambia, and he will work closely with my colleague Elisa, the architect, when we're working up these proposals, so we get some, fairly robust indications of the investment required for each of these product development ideas. So definitely, Brian, we will be covering that in the final phase of the work. And thanks too for your other observations. So I just wanted to make that clear. Now, Mamadou, back to you.
Yes, thank you. That's fine. Thank you. Any other comments? So there's one plus who? Okay, so that's it. So before, let me give you the floor, then I also have a few comments I want to share with the rest of the group. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. I am Malik Jallo, Ministry of Gender, representing the Ministry of Gender, Principal Research Officer. On the review of the document that was sent to us, we have given our comments with regards to the composition, the methodology that Mr. Cisse has, and will be sharing with the consultant and the team. What I would like to add is a very brief suggestion. From the report and the presentation, it is I can observe that the focus is mostly on the international market, international tourism. So what about the domestic tourism? What can be done? So this assessment exercise itself is an opportunity. So I would suggest if the consultant team could provide some suggestions during their exercise, some suggestions for domestic tourism that package developers and tour guides could utilize, because the domestic tourism also is very important in terms of the sustainability aspect, because global events like the COVID has taught a very big lesson with regards to sustaining our tourism in particular. So this is my suggestion for the team. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. This is a very good suggestion and very important. Thank you very much. Okay, Simon, before I pass the mic back to you to respond, one other critical thing for us to think about is, you said that as part of the TOR, we instructed you to look at each of the regions to have at least one site from the 10, and also that each of the bands, we expect at least one. Now, for when you look at the last band, which is the pottery and the craft, what you have done in turn in the 10 is to select 2 sites instead of 1. Because I saw you when you were presenting, like you said, you had to pick a site there. But still, there's the Basse, pottery and weaving, and then also the craft market. So now you can see that the different stakeholders are suggesting other sites, so it means if one of them could be potentially dropped, depending on your justification for it, then the other sides that people, the stakeholders are talking about can still fit as part of the 10 without you being out of having a site per ban and also a site per region. So I think this is very important for you to note.
Sorry. Thank you, Mamadou. That really is a poisoned chalice if we are to make that decision. And
it's not only the ban, but the region too.
Because on those specific issues, the opportunities in Basse and Brian, you noted the location of the weavers being not suitable, and one of the things that Lucy and Adam were talking about, and when we were working these ideas up, was perhaps finding a new location to combine the provision, in a more appropriate place. So Basse to us is an ideal opportunity for a project in the Upper River region, and scored most highly. There were very few that we looked at that were on the list in that region. The only others was Sutakoba, ancient trading town. So there were only 3 locations or 2 locations originally in that region anyway. And I think were we to lose the Kotu site, we lose the opportunity of providing ideas and opportunities that can be replicated across all of the craft markets. Now, I could see that might be a project that GTB would wish to take on separately if we were to lose Kotu from our list, to then make space for another. And if I can just maybe link that to a couple of other observations other people have made. Excuse me. Hassan Sisse from NCAC, I recognize entirely the potential of Banjul's urban heritage. And I'm sure you know my former student, MS Job, and I was very happy a few years ago to supervise MS's master's dissertation, where he looked at the potential, particularly of the colonial heritage buildings, for adaptive reuse for tourism purposes. So I understand the potential there, but again, from the point of view of the terms of reference we're working to, they weren't included for us to look at originally. Similarly, I'm aware of the threats to the remaining Kirinting houses and their significance as part of Gambian heritage, and that perhaps links back to the comment just now from Malik Jallow about domestic tourism and what kind of products we want Gambians to visit. There was an interesting observation made to us whilst we were on the road, when we were talking about, do Gambians want to visit national parks and pay to go bird watching or viewing animals? And the feedback we got was, well, no. The common view is, why should we pay to see something we can see every day? The other observation that, so I'm just looking back through my notes, Lamin Zaho, you talked about Jinak, and I think a couple of people mentioned Jinak and expressed surprise why it wasn't on the list. And it did score relatively high, but by the point we got to Jinak, as we were going through the list, we already had 2 or 3 other sites in North Bank region, and we also had a couple of other parks and wildlife sites as well. So it goes back to, I think, partly to Brian's comments on the previous presentation, when, in terms of how we systematically went through that list, and we had to begin to rule sites out when we already had enough in a particular region. I mean, Lucy was very, very complimentary about both Janak and Niumi and the potential there in terms of developing 2 center holidays with Senegal, particularly for wildlife tourism. I can see the benefits of in more investment in Niumi and in Janak. But as far as the methodology that we used, Fort Bullen came out higher, and therefore that's why that was included, both spatially and also thematically. So
Simon, can I say something else?
Of course, please do.
Yes, you could hear from their comments that some of the stakeholders they suggested clustering and the importance of clustering.
Yeah.
So and some noted the issue of having certain number of sites in one region. So in a way, even Fort Bullen could be clustered with Albreda and Jufure with Kuntakite. Isn't it? They are all in the North Bank, and you start that tour from Fort Bullen. You could either use road or you could use a boat, and then you get to Albreda, and then you do Kuntakite. And they are all, the unique thing linking them, all of them, is that they are UNESCO heritage sites.
Yeah.
So then in that way, when you cluster them, then it somehow leaves space for something else to come in.
I think if I'm to be totally honest, I mean, from a marketing point of view, from a tourist experience point of view, I agree entirely. From the point of view of a team of consultants who have a certain amount of time and resource to prepare concept schemes, costings, and so on, we need to be able to manage the number of locations for which we're providing these detailed recommendations, and that's a resource issue that obviously it's not appropriate to discuss at this particular moment, but it has also guided our our decisions on the number of sites to be included there.
I wanted to say that what we should leave in mind is future investment. I mean, it is deliberate that the PIU and government came up with sites. Products are something that the private sector can develop and cluster, and so that they can present it to the market in a way that is acceptable for tourists to visit. But in our particular case, we are looking at future investment. We're looking at what government can put in particular places that will also help not only that place, but also the cluster. For example, what came into our scoring was, you may ask why we didn't select Baboon Island, for example. But Baboon Island, what type of investment are you going to put in Baboon Island? It's already an enclosed island, managed properly. So we thought about, okay, Kuntawur. You need an investment in Kuntawur in terms of jetties and all the rest of it. So this is the way we were thinking. We can think of clusters, but then it actually takes us out from the specific area that government should put money in, so that also looks at the cluster as another way of developing. So we have to see it that way. I think it's deliberate that we were given sites to look at. But of course, in developing the sites, just like we did with Janjambure, we can also think of Kunkiling as a place where investment can come in, because that's the way we are thinking, that you can develop Janjambure, but Kunkiling is another area where you need a jetty, where you need other things. So we have to also look at the investment that is needed to develop these places. It's not just looking at the product, that this can all be clustered, but where specifically government should, because if you leave it very open, then government will be confused of where to put the money in. So we have to be specific in areas that the government can say, now we can invest in infrastructure in this area, and that will help the whole cluster to develop. But of course, in describing these things, we can always say, when we are doing the in-depth study, we can say, okay, you can also look at other things, but the real investment should go to this place. We can easily do that in the second phase. Yeah, yeah.
Any other view? So, Simon, do you have anything else regarding all of those comments that were made?
No, I mean, it's been really, really useful to get the feedback, and thank you on behalf of the whole team for all the positive comments that you've made about the work we've done to date. I think from our point of view, you know, there's been a master plan for the development of tourism in the Gambia in the past. You've got a recent national tourism strategy. We heard that there's going to be a marketing strategy produced relatively soon as well. And so I think that's all useful background to this study, which is about, as Adama just said, identifying a number of key locations where we can target investment. All sector. The relationships between the 10 sites that we've identified, you can begin to explore, you know, other linkages. Excuse me, and note, for instance, you know, Musa's comment about including Mungo Park as part of the product for Janjambura. I agree it's part of that, but if there is already investment going on with the memorial, which I believe is happening, you know, it's one of the reasons we didn't think to include it now, because it's already addressed. So what I would ask perhaps is, and whether, Mom, do you think we can do this now, or whether it needs a little bit more deliberation? Is that recommended shortlist that we've provided the definitive one, or do you really want, for instance, to take out Koto Craft Market and replace it with another one? Because, you know, we from the consultant point of view, you know, we need some certainty, because we now need to plan our next field visit.
Yes, that's I think that decision is not dependent on Momodou Cisse alone. So that's why we based on this round now, then we will discuss. You've had the other suggestions that were made here, and there are not many. I think it's only, there was a mention of Jinak. Yeah. There was a mention of Banjul. There was a mention of this center, Sadauda Kerewa Jawara Center, as a mice. And then there was what else? Yes, there was a clustering, but the consultants have talked about the clustering and the investment issue, so we need to note that as well. So there was also the clustering 4, and yes, Mongo Park. Yeah, that's the CRR South, the footprints. Yeah,
I think the Bansang one can be easily linked to the Kunkiling, because Forest Park, and then clustered. Yeah.
So these are the areas. So
yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's fortunate discussion is happening at the end of the Premier League season, where we're looking at relegation and promotion, and I think maybe we're leaving it to you guys to decide who's relegated and who's promoted.
Yes, thank you very much. That's a good way of moving ahead. So the first point then is to say, from the 10, if we were to relegate a site in order to accommodate for these suggestions, which site would it be?
Yeah,
that's the best way to approach it, right? We know the sites. You have all had look at the report, and you have all reviewed it. So if you are to relegate one site from the priority sites, which one would it be?
So I think for me,
But I cannot go because we need each band. Each region we need at least one site, and there's nothing else here to replace that with in CRL, the whole of URR. So definitely that one has to stay.
Yeah.
Based on the TOR and the scope. And the TOR and the scope is not something here we are going to discuss since we did that discussion in Senegambia. Yes. Yes, Fanta.
I just want to remind that before this exercise was done and criteria was already agreed. So if we want to make the changes, let's try as much as possible to make sure that whatever alternative we are bringing has meet a greater part of that criteria.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be based on emotions.
Yeah.
So we have to remember that. Thank you.
Yes. That's why even the footprints really cannot be now part of the consideration because it was not scored when they went on the assessment. So
it was not one of the.
Yeah, it was not part of the 64 sites. So we cannot, but we understand and we note that, and we can see what to do out of this, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, colleagues, excuse me 1 second.
Yeah, but Musa, too, you don't know whether the Janjambure can say if it's going to be relegated, depending on what these people say. Okay. So the colleagues, that's the decision is yours now. I think for the slave house, even the consultant call it the so-called slave house.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know that the slave house is even out of it.
Yes. So my question is, why would recommend for development something that somebody is seeing as a private property?
Because they are not recommended. According to the report, they are talking about Janjanbure as a historical site.
Right.
And then we know about the Freedom Tree, plus the Kankurang Museum, and the fact that the Kankurang has also been recognized by UNESCO. So all those things combined together, plus that it is at the riverside and you could have, cruise on the river. That's the
So you excluded the wooden house that is now a welding workshop, shut off.
Yeah, because it says so-called. So we are not sure what is
the wooden house. It's not so-called. It is right now. Wow. Yeah, sure.
There is a suggestion to relegate Fort Bullen out of the 10, and it's coming from the GT board.
For which side?
The Fort Bullen itself. Yeah.
For Nyomi National Park or?
That's great.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. We're not hearing this discussion. The last we heard was relegate Fort Bullen suggestion from GTB.
Yes. No, I'm just saying that let's look at it from a marketing, context. That these products are being developed to match the needs of segments. So these market segments we are looking at here are heritage tourists, culture seekers, history buffs, ethnic, market. And for me, I think the core product is already in James. I don't know, Jufre and Albreda. If that is developed properly, it can take care of their needs. Then Fort Bullen, we all know the Fort Bullen, the history behind it is great, but it's related to the slave trade. So it's for me, from a tourism marketing point of view, it's a duplication of the product. The core product is James Island, Kunta Kinte Island, Albreda, and Jufure. So this one just complements that product. So we can do away with the complementary part and concentrate on the core.
Yes, Mamad, come in.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Mamad Salah. I just wanted to say this. You know, the Fort Bulen, it is part of the World Heritage Site. It links with the Kunta Kinte Island, because we always say that Kunta Kinte Island and the related site. It is not only the island itself, it has also other sites that are also within the Jufre and Albreda, which is...
Then let's cluster it with Jufre, Albreda, but not a standalone product.
Yeah.
That is taking our vital,
Yes,
we have a short list here, 10,
yes.
And you are now duplicating, a product.
If you can link it with Kunta Kinte Island,
exactly,
then that's fine.
That's what I want to propose. Let's link it, cluster it, so that it becomes an extension. The core product is the Kunta Kinte, Albreda, and Jufure. Then this is a complementary product, so we link it, And I think that's fits in with our clustering concept.
I fully support that.
Yeah.
Cluster.
They give them so we free a whole, segment.
The definition of that Kunta Kinte and related sites, including Fort Bulen, and I think that covers it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, because let's be careful.
Okay, Mr. Sao,
no, sorry, let me.
You have made your point very well. I want to say something. It will
complement.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to say. Now, the objective of the consultants, I think, is to develop tourism products. Within that context, you have nature, heritage. So it's not about developing heritage product for the Gambia. Single-handedly. The heritage products, we are looking at them from the context of tourism, because tourists come. Lesser tourists come to the Gambia with a motivation. They come for to do something, and that something is what we are looking at. If, for example, if you are a heritage tourist from America, you come to the Gambia. For me, I think you go to James Island, you should have the products that appeal to you.
Thank you very much. So thank you. I was just saying this is the point I made about 10 minutes ago, when I was telling Simon that they should cluster Fort Bulen with Kunta Kinte Island and Albreda and Jufure, so that there is space to look at some other suggestions. Yes. And that's when Dr. Adama brought in the issue of the investment and all that, right? So, but we could see that we are all clustering, excuse me for the use of that word, towards, relegating Fort Bulen. So is this an approval of everyone? But it doesn't mean it goes out, but it means it's just part of the...
It's just clustering it.
Yes, Kunta Kinte and this.
In Kunta Kinte Island. So that we free the whole...
Yes, thank you.
So another segment.
Yes, so then that is agreed. That's validated. So any other site? Okay, so then it looks like all the other sites, they stay. So it's only about adding one more site, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then we are done. Okay, thank you. So we go to that selection of that site. Anyone who wants to make a case, then we can go around the room again. Thank you.
No, when they mentioned the Kenya Jamano, you talked about sedimenting and then some of the wildlife thing. Was that specifically means Abuko Nature Reserve? Tanje. So Abuko is now a part of it. Okay.
Well, the thing also with the Kenya is that one side from that ban has to be there. And you know that we are talking about sacred sites. So it's covering the Kachikali, and the Berending. So it means that, again, part of the TOR, one from that side has to be selected so that it can be developed into a kind of a product. So even if that goes out, it means it should be replaced by something from the crocodile pools or another sacred site, but nothing else.
And our observation of the crocodile pools, there is not much to do at the crocodile pool. We have Kachikali. When we looked at it, I mean, it's all intact. People are going, the market is there. They've even done the road. So there was not much to do there. And when we went to Berending, these sites are really dying. both Berending and the other. Folonco is still there, but I think when my generation is gone, I think those sites will no more be there. Honestly, they are not as kept as the Kachikali pool. It's only the elderly generation, the elderly women. And when we went to Berending, we actually found young people swimming at the pool, and it was full with people, really. So they were pointing at crocodiles, which we did not see. But we really think that
very friendly crocodiles.
yeah. So it's only the Kenya Jamming that we can think of something that has potential, especially for domestic tourism.
No, it has a lot of potential.
And regional tourism too.
Religious, domestic.
Yeah.
So colleagues, we are still the final point. So which site to replace Fort Bullen into the 10? Or a cluster? It could still be a cluster.
Banjul is not part of the sites unless we change.
But we are going to consider Banjul separately. Since I am a Banjulian. But separate from this one.
Would it be appropriate for the consultants to look at the shortlisted recommendations stemming from this meeting and put them through the evaluation criteria to maintain an objective approach?
Yes, go ahead.
I've got it open in front of me, Brian. Thank you for that.
The Baboon River Gambia National Park. I don't think, based on your assessment, like Baboon Island is not, high on the priority list for obvious reasons that you.
Yeah, I mean, it's an island.
It's an island
where the baboons are. You don't need anything to put there. I mean, the only infrastructure is on the other side because it's well guarded. They have a public route where the boats go, and they have a private route where nobody goes except if you have permission from Stella.
Latest publication, and the Baboon Island is a lead story.
No, we agree. Baboon Island is
a lead story on this tourism.
No, Baboon Island is
so
good.
For me, looking at the trends also, nature tourism is on the rise. Post-COVID, people are traveling to nature-friendly destinations. So we have a gem in our country.
Yeah.
No. Can I come in? Yeah. You said the what did you call that park?
Baboon Island.
No, you said something national park.
Yeah. It's the River Gambia National Park.
Yeah.
So the River Gambia National Park, is that the same as Baboon Island?
It's synonymous, the same.
It's all.
So now what we want to say is
be included.
But we know that the Baboon Island are those islands, right, within the river.
What is Benson in our list is the Baboon Island.
Yes.
And for me, it should be included in this short list.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is I think the River Gambia National Park itself is much more than just Baboon Island, isn't it? Like Baboon Island is part of the River Gambia National Park.
Yeah, it's part of the complex.
Yes, it's
the stories feature, here the lead story is about the baboon, River Gambia National Park. You can even see the baboons.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that if you are looking at tourism from, marketing point of view, from the trends, it all pointing to the fact that nature tourism is on the rise.
I agree.
We have a pristine nature park that is already being highlighted in the Kitty-Board group. And you read it, you know that there's.
Yes, but what I want to say also is that's true, that's fine. But I also want to suggest that maybe we look at the issue of the bird watching.
Yeah, but Baboon Island, you can do so many things that you can do. Hippo walking, you can do.
Please let me finish.
Everything, even bird watching, Mr. Cisse.
Yeah, what I mean is, as I made that comment, when you look at all the sites you put and this issue of say bird watching as a niche, we don't have a spot other than where you said that the bird watching can be part of Piang West.
Piang West with Baobalo.
Yes, with the Baobalo. Now, maybe the issue for us to look at is that when the bird watchers come, is that Baobalong the main site where they go for bird watching?
Can I comment?
Or
they have destination, different destinations.
okay, yes.
Depending on the birds.
On the birds, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now depending on the birds, if the birds are rare to the Gambia and we know where they are mainly clustered, we could develop a product around it. And just to counter my doctor here, the issue of bird watching for the investment, we all know that the investment is not that much because you are dealing with ecotourism. So it's just to put those patches where you could put the towers and those things.
Yeah.
So maybe we could possibly look at a specific location for the bird watching, which will include the unique birds of the Gambia. This is just a proposal as well.
May I intervene here? I may have a solution for you, and it links back to Brian's comment a few minutes ago. So if we're losing Fort Bullen is in the North Bank region and is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So the next World Heritage Site going down the list comes quite a way down, and it's Kerbach Stone Circles, which did not score particularly highly because it's relatively inaccessible, limited interest compared to Wasu, and so on and so forth. The next site on the list in the North Bank region is a name that we've already heard several times today, and that is Jinak, which my understanding has potential for a lot of bird watching and other nature viewing as well, manatees and so on and so forth. And thinking to a comment that Fanta made much earlier about respecting the outcomes of the whole evaluation process, it would seem to me, and listening to that discussion about what key markets we want to strengthen the product for, that if we replace Fort Bullen with Jinak, we keep the spatial distribution of the various interventions that we're looking at, in the sense that Jinak's only a little bit further north than Fort Bullen. It allows us to strengthen the product for our ideas for bird watching and nature tourism and ecotourism. And if we include some recommendations for Fort Bullen as part of the Kunta Kinte Island Albreda Jufre cluster linked to that one World Heritage Site, that to me would seem to be an appropriate way forward.
But I think I would rather call it the Nyomi National Park. It's better to call it the Nyomi National Park, Simon, and then Jinak is involved. It's part of it.
And Nyomi and Jinak. I would be happy with that. Can I also just raise everybody's attention that most of my colleagues from Rome had to leave to attend another meeting, but I'm still making notes and will report this back to them.
That's fine. That's fine.
But so if we replace Fort Bullen with Noemi, that to me makes a lot of sense, and it follows the process that we've gone through so far as well, which makes me kind of comfortable from a procedural perspective as well.
Thank you very much, Simon. I couldn't agree more with this brilliant suggestion from you. So I think we are all nodding our heads here and agreeing. So we'll move on that, but there are some few comments that you will take. Maybe it's not related to that. Go on.
Okay. Thank you, Simon. Thank you, Mr. Suze. I have a question, actually, a clarification and a statement, but I'll start with the clarification first. I believe the Tanja Bird Reserve is also going to be part of the locations, the sites.
Part of the cluster.
As a part of the cluster. So I just want to verify: is the Bijoli Islands going to be part of that? Because the Bijoli Island is also under the Tanja Bird Reserve.
We were told the Bijoli Island is actually sinking.
I was going to get to that, yes.
Yeah, it's in the next few years it will not be there.
Okay.
That's what we are told.
No, that's actually very true.
Okay.
Both islands, the long and the short one, they're both under threat from sea level rise and intense erosion. So I don't think that will be part of the.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Also, Jinak. things might have changed now, but the last time I was there, which was a couple of months ago, the island itself is under serious threat erosion. They've lost almost all of their beaches for different reasons. They also don't have water, access to water, and access to electricity. So just something to keep in mind as we, yeah, they don't have any facilities there. I think it's a great site for potential tourism, but the investment there, exactly, the investment there is going to be a lot more. So just things to keep in mind. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. But based on even what Simon and Adama are recommending, we don't focus only on Jinak. So we call it the Kotu
the
Nyomi National Park. So which then makes it, the cluster itself with the focus on the bird watching and the eco. So they will develop that aspect of it and then bring it on within the shortlist. I think that's yeah, no, but the Tanje, then when is the Nyomi National, you cannot add the.
No, Tanje is what they are suggesting is the Tanje becomes part of the Kenya Jamengo cluster.
Sorry, from a team leader.
Yes, go on, Simon. Go on.
From a team leader point of view, I am concerned if we keep adding sites into these clusters that we will not have time to do the work that we want to the highest standards, because we'll be spread too thinly. And I think we need to go back to the point Adama was making earlier, that this is about specific investment opportunities to improve particular sites and their immediate surroundings, rather than developing a master plan based around lots and lots of different clusters of products that can then be marketed in a particular way. So I was slightly surprised when Tanji was just mentioned there, because we
no, Simon, it was just mentioned based on the fact that the Kenya, that place that you could develop that. And remember, when you are presented, you yourself said that you in your head you are floating ideas regarding how do you develop that Kenya. So now they are saying that for tourists. So now they are saying that since it is close to the Tanje bird reserve as well, all that can be part of that idea you are mentioning, that you make it a site for even non-religious, just anyone who is interested in cultural. So then you could start thinking about it that way. That's all. Not like to add another site which is like 10,000 kilometers away from it. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the point.
Noted.
Okay. So I think we have come to the end of this validation. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Okay. The Abukon Nature Reserve was also. Yeah, the Abukon Nature Reserve was also part of the scores, the sites, and it was scored, and it has been also given a value, and it's just floating there as part of 54 other sites or 50 other sites where they have given, a commentary. However, note that some of the good comments we received from the stakeholders, which we are going to give to the consultants, include the fact that they should also develop a kind of a write-up regarding even those sites which are out of the 10 in terms of what they may be good at. But it's already there, as Simon mentioned, that they have given a wealth of information in the index that they provided. So which means then, just to summarize, that say Abukon Nature Reserve might be developed in this way, that way, then that becomes something, a little write-up that GT board might take up. You understand? But in terms of the scoring and in prioritization, we don't have sufficient to lift it as a standalone to be part of the 10. So that's the conclusion behind that. Any other comment? Yeah, speak to the mic behind you.
Abuko Nature Reserve, even in the master plan, it's not a standalone product, but part of a cluster of products around Western River TDA.
Okay.
That's TDA 3, Western River TDA, from Tenting Bridge right down to Mandinari, Kubune, Makasutu, then Abuko.
Okay.
So Abuko is not a standalone product per se, but part of a cluster of products around the Western River TDA.
Yes. Thank you very much for that comment. So based on that note, I think there are no more comments. We thank you all for sharing your comments, and we will compile everything and share with the consultant. As usual, this time we will copy the stakeholders as well. And we expect that we give them some time to finalize the report, as well as move to the final stage of working on the 10 that we are agreed. And the only change in the 10 is that Fort Bullen has been dropped, but not exactly dropped, but has been like clustered with Jufure and Albreda with the Kunta Kinte Island, right? And in place of that, we have the Nyomi National Park, which is coming, and they will look at this in terms of developing it with respect to ecotourism and especially bird watching. So that's the idea. And as part of the sorry, I am not a big fan of this religious tourism. Maybe that's why I cannot remember the name. Is to also look at it in terms of the Tanje bird reserve, and then develop something there. But apart from that, everything else is good, and the consultants have been applauded for having a very robust methodology and coming up with a very good report, which will really enrich the tourism policy and development of the Gambia. Okay, thank you very much. On that note, to close everything, perhaps maybe we just want to give, since the Deputy Permanent Secretary is not with us, we might want to give the Deputy Permanent Secretary from the Ministry of Finance to give a few words as closing remarks. And I just want to highlight that he knows this project very well, because he was the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Tourism when they were developing the project. So really, he knows it very well. So over to you, DPS.
Okay, thank you very much, Project Director of Gambia Tourism Diversification Project. I think it's a honor for me to be part of this validation of sites for site identification and for demand and destination tourism. As I was introduced, my name is Mamadi Dampa, Deputy Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs. I think for the Gambia, we all know tourism is very, very important. It contributes about double digits to the GDP of the economy. And as such, it's very, very important for the government because it creates over 40,000 employment, both directly and indirectly employment. And then it provides for the informal sector, it really, really supports our informal sector. Those are the taxi drivers, the fruit sellers, and all other key players in the informal sector of the economy. So as such, it is very, very important for our economic development, and especially this particular assignment that we are here to validate today, the 10 sites that have been identified by the consultants. I think those are very, very key. Currently, what the government is doing, we're trying to revitalize the river transportation system. So these sites identified will really, really help us to explore the River Gambia, which has not been potentially used as expected before. But with this new development in the tourism sector, I think there will be more opportunity to use the River Gambia, both for tourism purposes and also for transportation purposes. Basically, on that note, I really thank the consultants and also the key stakeholders who are really present here for this remarkable achievement in this particular project. This is one of the heaviest resource envelope that the government of the Gambia received from World Bank at the tune of I think $68 million for a period of 4 years. I think it's an opportunity for us to turn around our tourism sector, to realize the potential the tourism sector can offer to this country and also create more opportunities for our young people. Currently, we have a challenge as a government. We have a lot of our young people that are not employed. But with this project and other projects coming up, I think there is a lot of hope within the next 2-3 years. There will be a great turnaround in the tourism sector and all other tech sectors of the economy. On that note, I thank you very much for coming, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. So on that note, we say goodbye to our consultants who are joining us virtually. Goodbye.
Thank you,
and,
thank you, and thank you
very
for all your contributions, colleagues.
Thank
And
you.
look forward to seeing you when we return very, very soon. And thank you, Adama, especially for representing us on the ground.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, enjoy your lunch, colleagues.
Yes. Okay, just an announcement for you. Yeah, go ahead.
Before you leave, lunch is will be served, and also your transport refund. Yes.
Yes, no man. I have our time.
People's problem.
People's problem.
We have a lot of